All right. Here's some sci-fi, fantasy, action, kind of dystopian recommendations for you. So this one, if you liked All American Boys, if you read that one, or if you've read Long Way Down, this is the same author, Jason Reynolds. He's amazing, one of my favorites. And also, if you like the movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, this is the same character, Miles Morales. So this is like kind of a spin-off off of that. It's another Spider-Man story, fits into the Spider-Verse. And so it's written really well. It's a kind of a cool take on Spider-Man because it's like that different setting. And he's black and Hispanic, so he's just kind of a different culture, different vibe. But it's exciting, it's fun. It's if you've never read Jason Reynolds, you should read him. The way he writes, it just rings so true, and it just feels like he knows how you talk and he's talking to you. Like it's so good. So I love this one. If you like Spider-Man or superheroes, this is a super good recommendation. Miles Morales, Spider-Man. The next one, this one is historical fiction, but I put it in the action category because it's very intense. So it's called Codename Verity. And this is about a girl who is a spy in World War II, and then she is taken captive. And so they're torturing her and forcing her to record things. And so you're kind of wondering, what is she talking about? What is she doing? How is she, is she sharing the truth? Is she not? And it also goes back to this pilot who she was friends with. So it's a pilot during World War II who is trying to get her out. So it kind of goes back and forth between the pilot and the prisoner of war. And so it's pretty intense, but it's really exciting. Codename Verity. This next one is a mystery thriller called Dangerous Girls. This is very in lieu of like Gone Girl, Sharp Objects, kind of stuff like that. Or Dangerous Girls, sorry, it's plural. But this is about two friends, and one of them ends up brutally murdered while they're on vacation in Cancun, I believe. I forget. I'm pretty sure it's Mexico. But they're on vacation, and she gets brutally just stabbed to death, murdered viciously. And her best friend is the number one suspect. So it's kind of leading up to the trial for this murder and her best friend going on trial. And it's flashbacks to their past and kind of the friends trying to piece it together. Like, did she do it? And then you're kind of in the mind of the friend as she's going on trial and how she's like, what am I going to do? And you don't know if she did it or if she didn't. And so it is. I could not put this down. I read this in one sitting. It was so addictive and crazy, just so good. Definitely, I would, if it were a movie, I would give it an R rating. So it's got some steamy stuff, some intense stuff, but it's way good, very exciting. Dangerous Girls. This next one is another superhero one called Steelheart by Brandon Sanderson. If you haven't heard of him, he is a huge author, like so famous. He makes so much money. It's insane. But he writes really good books. He has cool world building, very action, violent based. So Steelheart is basically superheroes take over Earth and they are evil and they want to be worshipped by humanity. So this group of humans decides to join together to try and stop the supers from destroying the world and making them slaves. And this one boy who's the main character, he has a special desire to overthrow the supers because his dad was killed by one, and he's like, I'm gonna avenge my dad. So this is high action twist on kind of, if you're sick of superheroes but are kind of interested, this is like a total twist on the genre. So this is a really good one of my most popular books that I have. The next one, I believe I've talked about this one before, but it's I Hunt Killers. This one is about a guy or a kid whose dad is a serial killer and a psychopath. And he is also a psychopath. And what he decides to do, since he can think like a killer, he decides to hunt killers. And so he hunts killers down, and you're kind of in his mind, which is creepy because he's also a psychopath and he's just killing killers instead of other people. So it's really intense. And like, if you look at this cover, this is like a pretty good indication of what the book's like. So it's intense and dark, edgy, action. So that's a really good one, thriller as well. This one you've probably heard of, Michael Vey. It's kind of sci-fi is what I would say. It's like kind of magic, but it's more like X-Men type powers where it's more sciencey. So it's basically these kids have powers, gotta protect the world. I'm sure if you haven't read it, I'm sure you know someone who has read it and loves it. This is a super popular series right now. There's like 7 books, but even if you just read the first one, it's really good. Super fun, funny, exciting, just easy read adventure. So that's Michael Vey. This next one is called Surviving on a Whisper. This one is about a girl who this is also sci-fi. She was a experiment basically of this crazy scientist and now has these abilities. And she escapes because she's sick of being like a lab rat, kind of Stranger Things style. And she's being hunted down because they're like, we need you back. You're our science experiment. And so it's her and this guy who is chasing her down, kind of going back and forth and being on the run, trying to figure out how to live a life and how to put her life back together after it was destroyed by being a lab rat. So it's high action, but also like decent amount of like drama as well. But it's got really good action, insane twist at the end. The whole thing, honestly, is like, what? Like, it's so crazy. But it's a really good, like darker dystopian, not dystopian, just a darker sci-fi, but surviving on a whisper. And this next one is called Unwind. I know I've talked about this one before, but it's a favorite, so I like to remind people it exists. Unwind it's so good. This is one of my all-time faves, and it's a series, and it's amazing. It's about this dystopian society or dystopian America where we had another civil war over abortion, and they came to a agreement that abortion is illegal, but between ages 13 and 17, you're allowed to unwind your child, and which basically means harvested for parts, like they're divided and sold off. So it's about 3 different kids who are being sent to be unwound, and for different reasons. One's just, he's like a troublemaker, and he's 17. His parents are like, we're done with you, so you're getting unwound. And he's like, heck with that, and he runs. He goes on the run. He meets up with this girl who is an orphan, and she's not talented enough to like be worth keeping. So the state's like, yeah, we can't afford to keep you in our orphanage, so you're getting unwound. And he runs into her, and she decides to run with him. And then there's a third kid who is a tithe, which is when a family has 10 kids, and they give the 10th kid up to be unwound as like a religious practice. So that's insane. So this kid's like totally brainwashed and wants to be unwound, but they feel like, no, that's crazy. So they decide to take him with them. So they're on this crazy journey, and they're on the run. It is so intense, so action-packed, and so like kind of mind-blowing at the same time. It is creepy. It is exciting. It is so good. I just think everyone would like this book. It is so good. This next one is called The House of the Scorpion. You might have heard of this. I know a lot of people read it in elementary school, but it's so good. I think you should always read it. So The House of the Scorpion is about this. So it's dystopian America and Central America, where the wealthy can have a clone made of themselves. So there's like tons of clones. Cloning's a thing. And that way you basically have like this healthy body to like, you can always get organ donations from, or like whatever transplants you need from your clone. But this kid is a clone, and they decide, so the guy who he's the clone of wants him to be raised like a regular kid, whereas most clones are just like, they're brain dead and they don't do anything. But he's raised as a regular kid. And so everyone, he has this like crazy upbringing as a little kid, because he doesn't realize he's a clone. And so kids are like, some treat him badly, some treat him well, and he starts to realize like his life's gonna end, and he has to figure out what he's gonna do to stay alive, and not be harvested for parts, as his person is aging quickly and wants his organs. So not similar to Unwind, I guess it sounds like, but it's actually not. Such an exciting, just good dystopian novel. Really, really classic. And this one is currently one of my all-time favorite books. It's called Six of Crows, and this is another one. I think every human being will like this book. I can't imagine not liking it because it's so good. And everyone I know who's read it loves it. Like, it is so good. So Six of Crows, it's basically like a fantasy heist novel. So it's like these ragtag teens / young adults. They have these like tragic backstories. They live in a slum, but they've developed these skills. They're like in a gang basically, and so they're experts at theft and sneaking around and getting information, fighting. Like, there is a lot of violence. It's pretty graphic at times, but it is very cool and exciting. So there's like this impossible heist that someone's like, I know you can pull it off, you and your team, because you're like the bottom dwellers, criminals, so I want you to do it. And so they're pulling off this impossible heist. And so there's magic, and tons of action and violence, plus heisting, stealing stuff. If you like, like Ocean's 11 type of thing. It is so insanely good. And the characters are like, they are so good. They're so relatable and so funny and so tragic at the same time. Like, oh, this book is so good. I just read it and I want to read it again already. Very exciting. Magic heist, basically. It's super great. And the last one I want to talk about is another superhero one called Runaways, and it's basically children of supervillains. They're like, we gotta get out of here. And they try to like show society they're redeemed by killing their parents. So they're like trying to kill their parents, but society still hates them and doesn't trust them because they're still superheroes or children of supervillains. And so they're kind of just like on the run trying to make their life. And that's Runaways. It's really good, just like fun, easy read. So, whew, that was a lot, but hopefully there's something in here that is exciting and worthwhile to you. Let me know if you need other recommendations.